brought back the big guns. Say hi, Dad, Brian Runk. And I just know how important it is for you to specifically give back to the community all the time.
Back to the dorms.
This is slick, Dad.
I'm always scheming, man.
You're scheming
Always
right here.
We had to, between the two of us, decide if this doesn't work for us, what will we do with this building?
And it sort of happened right away. I mean, that's sort of what happens when you stumble upon something that we like.
So we drained the pool. We had an artist come in, and about 5-6 weeks later, there it all transformed.
It was a great location, so we knew it had, I guess, as you say, good bones.
Around the Table with Vickie. Just like gathering around the dinner table with loved ones and friends, we're here to share stories, insight, and inspiration.
Well, hello, everyone. We hope you're having a wonderful day. And thank you for joining us yet again for another episode of Around the Table with Vickie. I'm your co-host, Chris Runk, and to my right, as always, is my mother, your host, Vickie Runk.
Almost Merry Christmas time. My goodness, it's a week before Christmas, and we're so excited to. It has been a while since we've been in the studio, and it always feels good to come back and get to talk to all of our viewers and listeners. We love sharing life with you.
And it is certainly chilly outside, that's for sure.
It is.
But you're not only getting 2 Runks today, you're getting 3.
Yes,
we
that's
brought
right.
We brought back the big guns. Say hi, Dad, Brian Runk.
Yeah, they had to, I guess maybe ratings are dropping. I don't know. But
Obviously.
they told me I had to come back on, so I said I'm here.
Oh,
Take part of the
if,
team.
if
Welcome
that's the
back.
way it gets you into the studio,
There we
then
go.
we'll let you
Whatever
think
it takes.
that.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
You know, Mom, we always enjoy hearing from listeners, and we've heard that folks really enjoy hearing kind of the stories of entrepreneurship and business that you and Dad have successfully grown throughout your 33 years of business. And today we want to talk about probably one of those newer projects, and that is Bella Vista Hotel and Suites, formerly known as the Kirkley.
That's right. And before we get started, I will say, Brian, we have been stopped so many times about how God has really used some of the words that we've used here on the show to help encourage and bless some of the other local businesses here in the area, that they've just seen some familiarities in what they're going through and what we talked about that day. And so I think we've kind of found a niche that we feel like the Lord has kind of directed us in to continue on the path of just sharing our journey a little bit.
100%, that's right.
And it's been nice to have people come up and just say you've been a blessing. And that's what this show has always been about.
Absolutely. Well, Mom, I'll get right into it. You know, I know that there's a long history between you and Dad at the hotel, Bella Vista Hotel and Suites. So can you kind of set the stage? What drew your interest to the hotel and, in the whole renewing process? So just kind of start us at the beginning.
Yeah, so it's a really fun fact, and I hope you're going to find this as funny as what I have all these years, as we experienced our very first date at a restaurant inside what used to be the Hilton.
Johnny Bowles.
And Brian had a roommate, Neil Suiters. I'm just going to go ahead and say his name. He may hear this. And he was a waiter at Johnny Bowles, and it was our very first date, so Brian was trying to impress me. And he evidently had worked out a deal to where he was going to slip Neil a really high tip, a large tip, at the end of our dinner to impress me. And
Big spender.
and then Neil was just going to turn around and give it back to him that night when he got back to the dorms.
This is slick, Dad.
I'm always scheming, man.
You're scheming
Always
right here.
And what is so funny about all that is that I didn't even see the tip be slipped between the two of them. So there really was no level of impression. But I heard about it from friends the week later at Liberty, and it was fun because, when I approached him about it, he was like, I just wanted to impress you. So we
didn't even work. All that effort, all that planning didn't even work.
But eventually, it was really cool when we started exploring the purchase of what was the Kirkley, to walk back through those doors, and we knew exactly where in the restaurant we were sitting, and it was really cool to think that 28 years, because we've owned it since 2018.
Right.
So it's been a little further back, that we were walking through those doors as just two single people on our first date and to look, fast forward now 33 years at what God's done in our life and in our companies, it really was like a full circle moment that we experienced. And we had to remind ourselves that God is really a wonderful miracle worker when you look back and think we were just two kids going to Liberty University, and we had no way of knowing that God, 28 years later, was going to lay that property in our lives to be able to operate it and have it. So that's the fun fact of this episode.
Maybe I should have picked some different site, instead of the hotel. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
So I know the whole process. Obviously, I was part of it, but kind of talk about what some of in the early stages you knew there was going to be some updates that needed to happen at the hotel, and despite that, kind of talk to the process of thinking how you were going to purchase it, what you knew you wanted to do going into it.
Yeah, you want to take some of that, honey?
Well, the hotel was originally built as a Hilton in the late 80s, like 88, 89. So we knew that it had good bones, but we knew that it really hadn't had a whole lot done to it since it was built. But it was a landmark for the hotel where it was located. It was in a great location, so we knew it had, I guess, as you'd say, good bones. And we knew that that it was a project that would take some work. So we approached it knowing that from the standpoint of we had some checks done. We knew that for structurally everything was good, but just needed to really put yours and Caitlin's touch on the building was the biggest thing that they really needed. So when we bought it, we knew that was part of the plan, and we knew that it just takes some time to make that happen.
Well, what was so cool about the whole purchase of the hotel was we literally had developed a relationship, Christopher, with Peter Greenberg, who was the previous owner, and he had it for 10 or 11 years. And we would go over, I don't know if you remember, but every week on Wednesday night, our whole family would go over and have dinner at the Great Room, which is now Tory Blue. And we would sit and have conversations with Peter, and we would really learn all about the property, and we would fall in love with the whole concept of we would be a first-time hotel owner, and that was a little daunting. So like any good business owner, you've got to have a plan A and a plan B. So entering into something that you've never done before, like a hotel, ownership, we had to, between the two of us, decide if this doesn't work for us, what will we do with this building? And the building, like your dad said, had such great bones, and we were used to operating and owning larger buildings for senior living. So the backup plan was that if we can't make this go as a hotel, and little did we know that 2020 was just over the hill, and we would experience one of the biggest depressions the hotel management, hotel ownership would ever see in this lifetime, and probably before this, we would see a depression unlike any other for the hotel and hospitality business. And thank goodness that we had made plans for an interruption in all of that. Yes, during COVID. So we bought it in 2018. We had a hotel management company come in right away that managed the hotel for us so that we could get, used to the idea of how does hotels work. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you have to do. We have star reports and all of these things that we weren't used to. And so learning from that hotel management company, Aimbridge, and bringing on people around us, which is another smart thing to do when you're entering into a business that you really don't have a lot of knowledge about. Bringing in people that are smarter than you, people that are wiser than you, and people that have walked that road well before you have was so instrumental in getting us through the year of COVID, because they were part of that management team that as COVID approached, they were exiting out, and we were going to take it as our own as a boutique hotel, and renovations were going to start. So I think it's real important that people understand that you have a plan A, that if this all goes great, just like I expect it to, but you always worry, then I've got a plan B. You always should have a plan B when you're getting ready to get into something that you've never done before. And even when you're getting into something you have done before, always having that backup plan that we know if this doesn't work, we can always lean on this. And the building itself was a magnificent building, but it did need a lot of work.
Right. And sometimes you're not always sure what that plan B would be. For us, we were pretty clear with that. Even as a condition of the purchase, we had to get it rezoned. So we went to city council, went through all of the rezoning because it wasn't zoned for any kind of senior living. So we went through all the rezoning, didn't hit any resistance. That all went through well, but we knew that we were making all the right steps so that that wasn't be some afterthought that we should have done when we purchased it. So I think doing your homework, pre-planning, knowing what to do in those kind of situations to the best of your knowledge is important with that, because you always want to make sure that you just never know what you may hit. So trying to be as proactive in things as you can is always important.
And again, we're going back to our history. I've always loved, offering a property for the community to come into. I've always loved hosting guests and making sure that they're taken care of, whether it's a big group or a small group. That hotel for me, in my mind, was going to be able to enable me to host over 120 guests at one time, which we have done since the renovations. And it's been wonderful to be able to put our stamp on that and to be able to have people that leave and say, I had such a good experience. And although we're not perfect and we make mistakes, as we all know, we've gone through shortages of staff and all that's happened since 2020. We always take every compliment and every complaint. Christopher, you help me with those. And we try to turn them into positive experiences for future guests. So if we are experiencing a deficiency in an area, when we get a comment, we're always the next day trying to fix it, being on top of it all the time. It has become a beautiful boutique hotel, and I'm so very proud of what it has become. But it was a lot of work, and we had to invest over $7 million to get it there.
Well, even we also knew that on the hospitality side with our weddings that we have, we always knew that could be a component, because the bridal party could stay together and have somewhere to stay. We one of the things that surprised me was as many families that we have with the 5 different locations, 6 now that we have in town. People are always coming in and seeing grandma, whatever, even them staying at the hotel.
Right.
So
and in the early days of Liberty Ridge, we had several rooms available.
Right.
We don't anymore. We're full. But back in those days, Christopher, we would actually let families, rent every night an apartment there at Liberty Ridge, because they've come in from out of town to stay with mom and dad for the holidays, or, they're coming in for a quick couple-day visit, and we wanted them to always be close. So the hotel's been a nice amenity for our families that travel.
So what I'm hearing you say is you had synergies within your own company, that you were noticing you had needs that need to be met, whether you had families coming in for college and they're visiting their children or loved ones at Liberty Ridge. So that's awesome that we were able to kind of funnel people to the hotel. I also want to talk about how, because I know this is one of your major points, was how iconic that hotel and what it means to Lynchburg throughout the years. I mean, you talk about location. Speak a little bit about how iconic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's right across from Lynchburg's only mall, which has just undergone, thanks to Liberty University, a beautiful transformation. We're so proud of our mall. And I can't say it was always that way. So thank you to Liberty University and Don DeCostin and Jonathan Falwell for seeing the need in the community. For it's nice now to have a mall that we can actually go to and feel like we're a little upscale there. So it is right across from the mall. It's just steps away from Thomas Rowe Baptist Church and Liberty University. And we're so blessed to be able to have a really good relationship with all those folks. And we take care of special guests coming in for Thomas Road. I take care of Senior Saints music groups that come in and sing once a month. I'm blessed to be able to help them. Liberty Football, we're the home to Liberty Football home games, 6 or 7 every year. It's fun to get those tall, big boys in there and feed them. We actually feed them. We have the nutritionalist that works with our chefs, and we make sure that they're game ready to go for those
so
wins.
So when they went 13-0 and things being, that's really because of us.
That's exactly.
We fed them right.
We
took care of them.
Yeah.
So,
and being our alma mater, it's always great. We have the swim teams in there. Christopher, I know that you've worked with some community groups like the Hillcats in the past that we hope to be able to one day say we're going to service. We've had the airlines in there at one time. We just signed with the 10 Miler. We're the home of the 10 Miler now, where you sign up and They do all kinds of things in our ballrooms and our salons, and there is really no greater joy after we've worked on something that hard to open the doors, have them, just swing open for the community to just go in and use that landmark hotel. It's been around since the mid-'80s. And so, to still have it vibrant and new and such a proud part of Lynchburg City. Lynchburg City's been wonderful to us. Of course, we just hosted disc golf and hosted a lot of the players, and it's great to see people coming through there that really appreciate the work that's been done, because one of the things we hear so much is, well, we knew what it looked like before, and now we see what it looks like now. And a lot of people say, I had no idea it had changed this much. So to be able to kind of hand that back to the community as a resource after we've personally been so involved in it has been a great thing for us.
And you mentioned kind of throwing parties and having the community in. The ballroom can put well over 300 people in one location, and I just know how important it is for you to specifically give back to the community all the time.
Yeah.
And I know it does your heart no better joy than to see the community embrace it. And so if you haven't been into the hotel in a while, I challenge you to come in, because it does look quite a bit different. Between all the new updates that you've done, completely different name, completely different colors, all new interiors, new carpet, new furniture, new front desk, new computers, new televisions, and we now have a new restaurant inside as well. So I know that's been a labor of love for both of you for probably the past 2 or 3 years, coming right out of COVID. So if you haven't stopped by, make sure you do. But getting back to some of these questions submitted here, Dad, I mean, you talked about the age of the building. Any business owner going into a new project, you have to make some infrastructure renovations. What were some of those top key things that you knew that you had to address?
Well, we knew going in, we had a lot of studies done to make sure that we had try to, do our homework as thoroughly as we could. But anytime you're with an older building, when you get into it, you never know what you're going to hit.
There's some surprises along the way, aren't there?
We definitely hit some surprises. I mean, we had some delays getting started. So it was a little bit challenging just getting things started. And with any project you do, getting started is always the hardest part.
And we stayed open during the renovation.
Yeah.
So we kept half the building open and half under renovation. And just local listeners, Coleman Adams did a great job on that.
Yeah, they were super with that. But our plan was we closed the west side down. We renovated the east side. And then when the east side was done, we did the west side. So it took a little longer to do it that way, but we really wanted to still keep some revenue coming through the hotel. But we hit a lot of issues, like a lot of the plumbing and a lot of the vertical plumbing things were cast iron and had rotted
And the whole
out.
building was concrete. So trying to get internet, Christopher,
Man.
Matt Fleming was fabulous and still is in helping us, and World, just some local people that I want to do a shout out.
Yeah, renovations to an existing building is always more difficult than a new build, but especially an older building that again is concrete, all the floors. I mean, so that's why we said it had good bones. It's a rock. But doing renovations made it difficult, and so sometimes we had a plan, we had to improvise. So there definitely presented challenges. Therefore, it took a little longer. But at the end of the day, the results were really good, and basically, it's completely modernized. All new PTACs, all new windows, all new plumbing. We ended up doing all new wiring. So for the most part, we were able to maintain the sprinkler system. But for the most part, everything in there is all brand new. So from a structure standpoint, it's still the existing building, but from all of the guts of the building, they're all brand new.
During that renovation phase, I know it was a lot of work on all of us, quite honestly. But for you both, how did you balance your business and the creative priorities to establish the shared vision for Bella Vista now?
Well, I mean, I could have spent a whole lot more money on that building. So, I mean, $7 million sounds like a lot of money, but that was a very big building. So I feel like I had to really be resourceful and creative to be able to deliver a product that I probably needed a little bit more budget for. So he was constantly reminding me, remember, you have a budget.
But you've always been really good at that throughout the years.
Yeah. I feel like I was extremely resourceful during that time. And Again, we just have a lot of really good local companies, Central Virginia Flooring. They did all the carpets in those areas, and they were really good about finding the colors that I wanted to deliver to the customers. They were really good about finding product that was going to last us 15 years or more, because goodness knows I don't want to redo that thing again anytime soon. I'll leave that to your sister and you. But also just researching what boutique hotels really needs to deliver aesthetically to the customers. And so I had to really spend a lot of time researching and then trying to develop that on a very minimum budget.
And you talked about the colors and the renovation. I know there's a lot of thought process, taking it from the old Kirkley and the colors and what that has been for years, and now what it is with Bella Vista and with a rebrand. Talk to me a little bit about the thought process of lightening everything and the colors that were chosen and the name and the brand.
So honestly, the name came from a Hallmark movie that your daddy and I were watching.
One of the best Hallmark
One of
movies
the
I've ever
best
seen.
Hallmark
It's
movies.
awesome.
And when we heard the word Bella in the beginning of when they were talking about they were going to Bella Vista Vineyards, I believe it was. And we looked at each other and I said, write that down.
Well, we had Bella Rose already.
We did.
You know?
Yeah. It just really fit in with our flow
And we have
of
a
things.
lab
I was going to say,
named
We
have
Bella.
We
our
do have a
favorite dog.
wonderful,
There's
precious lab that
lot
is
named Bella.
that is failing now. She's 12 years old and she's got arthritis and she's white as snow and got a big black nose. Always looked like a polar bear, but she's been your favorite dog
Yep.
of all times, and so we were giving a little nod to our Bella girl. But Bella just had so much going on in our history and our branding. I wanted people to think of, oh, there's Bella Rose and there's Bella Vista. So, but the name honestly was put into our minds from a Hallmark movie that
And we both hit it at the same time.
We
We
did.
watched it and we both said,
That's it.
that light bulb went off, and we both, I think, at the same time said, that's a cool name. That would work, because it had all the tie-ins.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we said, what do you think? We both said we loved it. And it sort of happened right away. I mean, that's sort of what happens when you stumble upon something that we like. We sort of just do that happens quickly. And so that's sort of how
we
it
get
came
made
about.
fun of for watching Hallmark movies by our kids, but that was one time it really paid off.
Paid out.
Yeah, paid off big
And
time.
while we were designing the logo,
Mm-hmm.
which we put a lot of time and effort into, we made sub categories of these logos, right? And we put one together that was BV.
Yeah. And we didn't have any way of knowing that. And it was so cool when we realized that, really, again, I always bring back things that, God had to have. That's a sense of humor there, because it was really cool.
When you look at BV,
Yeah.
Brian and Vickie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so you guys did a good job at branding all of that. The colors, honestly, I revert back to 33 years of doing interiors for senior living, and it is no different whether I'm designing for senior living or the community. Everybody wants to walk into a space that's light, bright, and airy, and those colors make everything appear to be fresh and clean. And that's the signal I wanted to give to the community: is this is not the old brown carpet. Everybody referred to the Kirkley as that old chocolate brown carpet, and there wasn't anything wrong with that, right? It served a purpose in its time. And I kind of thought the animal print was kind of
Cheetah print,
cool.
that's
It was
pretty
cheetah
cool.
print.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
I think I could have used that, but
Anybody that knows you, though, that's not your style.
not my style. And so I just thought, you know what? I'm going to give the community what they like so much about some of our other properties, which was a lot of those colors. And if you go in the senior living communities, you're going to find a lot of those colors being used throughout as well. And I've heard customers say it's just so beautiful and it feels so comforting. And I also have heard them refer to it as a spa-like environment, which is what you want to feel like when you're paying to stay somewhere overnight. You want it to be an experience.
During rebranding, how did you think that the name and the colors would resonate with both locals and travelers coming into Lynchburg?
Well, I knew that we would face a little bit of a challenge with people still reverting back to the Kirkley. But that, in my mind, there's nothing wrong with remembering our past. I didn't want to erase our past. The Kirkley was a very strong part of Lynchburg's past, and it did a great job for the time that it was supposed to be the Kirkley. So having the challenge to then flip it to Bella Vista, I feel like it happened very quickly and organically. And people, even the locals, will say sometimes, well, we're going to Bella Vista, that used to be the Kirkley. But it also lets our clients know that we've changed and turned the chapter in the book. And now we're starting a new chapter and a new era of hospitality in that building, that we're no longer the Kirkley. That was in the past and it's gone forever. But the memories that you made in that building, whether you had a wedding reception there, I know I have a really good friend that had a wedding reception there, and I was able to recall that as I was walking through that day. And there's been baby showers in that building. There's been business meetings. I know the realtors group was there for years. We don't want to erase those memories. So it's nice to now hear people say, it used to be the Kirkley, but now it's Bella Vista, and that just lets us know we've turned the page, which is okay.
Mom, I know in the rebranding process, I know there's a lot of different fun stories and a lot of things that we went through and some crazy stuff that we pulled off. But one of the most pretty spots in the hotel, and is very visible as soon as you walk in the door, is the pool area.
Yeah.
And it's where a lot of families and kids hang out, right? It's a really important amenity. But that pool is quite scenic, and there's some special nuances in the pool. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So I knew early on that I wanted to have an artist be brought in and do my walls. So there's some palm trees on the walls, and then I wanted to do the crest of the Bella Vista in the middle of the pool, and then I wanted a dolphin in there as well. So we drained the pool. We had an artist come in, and about 5-6 weeks later, there it all transformed. And I had a customer come through while I happened to be there one day, and I heard her say, "This looks like something straight out of Miami, Florida." That's when I knew I was on the right track. And the other fun fact about this whole thing is that I'm extremely claustrophobic and I don't do elevators. So the whole time I'm renovating that hotel, I'm using the back staircase to get all over that building. So it was never easy to check every room and make sure everything was being done because I used a lot of energy getting in and out. But hearing the customers in the early days coming through and making those kind of comments is how I knew I was on the right track.
5 floors.
Yes.
Right? That's a lot of steps.
It is.
You
Yes.
certainly got your
I do
steps
the same
in.
thing at Liberty Ridge, though. Yes.
Another really cool aspect and part of the renovation that we went through was converting some of the doubles to king rooms. Talk a little bit about the thought process on those king rooms. And Dad, I'll kick that one over to you.
Well, let me say before you say anything, though, honey, that this was really your idea. And so we had to bust out a lot of walls to make all that happen.
Well, we really just joined. There were 2 rooms. We took every single room when we made these king suites, and we basically just put an opening between them. So every room had a renovated larger bathroom with a bedroom and a nice closet. And then we had an opening that walked through to a living room and a kitchenette. So we had these suites that we could use for folks with families, or the possibility for senior living as well. We have 43 of those throughout the hotel.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important maybe stopping point that we can stop on today, as 43 king suites. That's kind of unheard of. Anybody that we talk to about hotels say that it's unheard of to have that many options. So we're going to keep you guessing until next week. We want you to come back and hear some of the future plans that we have for the property. More questions by Christopher. But until next week, I'm Vickie, and Brian and Christopher are to my left, and we're right here around the table.